all afternoon. First of all, thank you. You have no idea how, I'll speak for myself, but I think I'm speaking for our whole group. First of all, I'm Betty Good. I'm with Linkages, Society of Alberta, but I'm here not representing Linkages, but being part of our Intergenerational Linkages community of practice. And we're on the core platform, as you can see. And so before we start, I just want to do some housekeeping things. When you're not talking, please mute yourself unless your place is really, really quiet. Okay, and then later when we're having our discussion or if you're asking a question, if you can just mention your name when you start talking, just so that we can start getting to know you. And feel free to use the box, the chat box. And if while we are presenting or sharing ideas, if you have a question, you don't have to wait till the end. Just jump in, because really this is a conversation. It's not a presentation, it's more like a conversation. So don't wait till the end. Also, you'll notice at the bottom in the reaction, you can use your clapping or your thumbs up just to let people know if you like what they're saying or not, okay? There's no thumbs down, so you can't do that, okay? So the purpose today, as you probably already know, because that's why you signed up, but the purpose is to informally share our ideas with others across the province so that we know what we're doing during December, how to connect older adults, and then of course engage the youth, because that's what this group is all about. Okay, and really we're trying to create a sense of communication and ease across the province, where the more we do this, the more we can get to know each other and work together. And it's really nice to know that you can connect and you're not all alone. Because sometimes I know especially if you're in rural Alberta, you're all by yourself in your office thinking, oh, it's really hard doing it all by yourself without a lot of support. So hopefully we can create that community to support each other. So right now I'm going to ask the group members to introduce themselves, and we're not going to do long introductions, our name and the organization so for the group members, we know that we're with the community of practice, but what organization are you with and where in Alberta are you located? Okay, we're going to start with Jody.
Good afternoon, Jody Wood. I'm a policy analyst with the Ministry of Seniors and Housing on the senior side, and I'm based in Edmonton. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, and next is Julie. Where's Julie?
Yeah, I'm just unmuting. I'm following your rules, Betty. I've got my mute on. Hi, I'm Julie Friesen, and I am based in Medicine Hat, but I'm a community development officer with the Ministry of Culture, Multiculturalism, and Status of Women, the Community Development Unit. And we've always been the same unit, but our ministry has changed many times. So hello, everyone, and welcome.
And Chantal.
I'm Chantal Ottenbright, and I'm with the City of Medicine Hat, located in Medicine Hat, and I'm a community resource worker out of our senior center, which is currently municipally run. So we're able to do some programming and work within the community at large. So we get to do a lot of really fun things around here. So thank you.
And Charlene.
I'm Charlene Fletcher, and I work with Chinook Arts Regional Library System as their senior and intergenerational program developer, and I'm located in Lethbridge.
And Rebecca is another person that is in our group. She's in Rocky Mountain House with FCSS. She's the program coordinator there, and she's unable to join us today. And then we have Cindy.
Hi everyone, I'm Cindy with United Way. I am the community developer, and I am located on Treaty 7 land.
Okay, and Myrna. Myrna is a special guest that has been invited for today. So do you want to just briefly introduce yourself, Myrna, and then we'll hear more from her later on.
Hi there, my name's Myrna Cooper and I'm from Medicine Hat. I work at the Cypress View Foundation.
Okay, now thank you everybody. And because we're trying to create community, we want to hear from the rest of you. And our group is small enough today. So what I want you to do is same thing, your name, what organization you're with, and where in Alberta are you located? Okay, so just jump in. I don't know you, so I can't call you. Don't all speak at once, okay?
Hi, I'm Crystal. I work with Betty at Linkages. I'm a program coordinator there, and I manage both the school programs with Betty, and then I'm also doing a music to link program. And in the meantime, before we get our new person, I'm also helping out with the Penpal program that we have that I'll talk about later on. And I'm in Calgary, Alberta.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. I'm Caroline G. I'm with the Edmonton Seniors Coordinating Council here in Edmonton, and I oversee the Age-Friendly Edmonton initiative. And happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Carol Lynn Babiak with Alberta Health Services, Health Promotion, based out of Vegreville, and have the area of Northeast in Central Zone.
Jane Atkins. I'm with Sundry Spruce, which is Seniors Protected and Respected under Community Engagement, and I'm from Sundry.
Hi, I'm Charlene Moe. I'm with Alberta Blue Cross, as some of you have heard earlier. We've been part of the partners that are supporting the core work and this community of practice work, along with United Way and the other partners. So this is one of my first times joining with this team here. I think I was at your webinar as well, and I was excited to kind of hear that kick off. And unfortunately, Crystal's not able to join today, but she sends hellos.
Hi, I'm Connie Marie Riedelhuber, and I'm with the Keep in Touch program through Volunteer Lethbridge, which is a COVID response program to make calls to seniors.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Ekstad. I'm the volunteer coordinator with Bethany Calgary, which is a long-term care center in Calgary, Alberta, part of the Bethany Care Society. And since we don't have volunteers involved in our site at the moment, I'm wanting to gather more information on other ways that I can explore giving our residents some more interaction and connection during the holiday season.
Okay, last call. I don't want to miss anybody, but I don't want to embarrass you either by calling you out. Okay, thanks everybody. That's exciting. Again, our group is so happy that you're here. I should mention, and I think you already know, our group is fairly new. We had our launch on October 26th. And then this is the first thing that we have planned since then. And hopefully we'll do many more of this, just because this is what we want to do, is create our community. Let me tell you what the next few minutes are going to look like. We've scheduled from 1:30 until 3, but we're hoping, unless it goes really well and you guys all want to stay and chat, we can stay till 3. But we also don't want to waste time if, just with dead space. So let me explain what we're going to do, and then I'm going to hand it over to Julie. So first of all, those in our group, and Julie's going to facilitate that, we're each going to share what kinds of things we have been doing in our communities to reach out to the older adults, and also using youth to do that, okay? And then we're going to open it up so that you, the participants, can share, because I'm sure you've been doing things that we want to hear about, and we can brainstorm ideas too, and talk about good things and maybe tell some stories. And that'll turn into an informal discussion. And, you know, if we have any questions. And then we're going to tell you what our group's plan is for the beginning of 2021. So Julie, I'm going to hand this over to you and you can facilitate the next part.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Betty. So I was going to do that. Thank you for overviewing that for me. Just before we do start, and I'll just go over it one more time. So we have 4 of us that I guess we're going to be the panel today. There is Betty, Charlene, Myrna, and Chantel, and they're going to be our panel. So you'll hear what they're doing in their communities. And when it comes to Myrna's turn, she's going to give you a specific example of something that she's experienced in her facility. And then we, as Betty said, we'll share your experiences and brainstorm some ideas, I hope. And then we will have time for sort of an informal Q&A. And if anything sticks in your mind right after a presentation, I'll just pause in between so you can ask when it's really pertinent in your head. And so I just wanted to bring to your attention something on your screen if you're not familiar with it. We can take your input or your questions in 2 ways. One, we're a small group, so you could just speak up. I don't think it's going to be an issue. We're not 100 people or anything. So you can just speak up. If you're not comfortable with that, or you're used to being in meetings where you have to hold up your hand and take your turn, if you go to the very bottom of your screen, you'll see across the bottom, there's a mute and a video, and then there's this thing called participants. And if you click on that, it takes you to this, it's along the side of your screen. It shows you who's in the meeting. And then there's a little blue hand. It says raise hand, and there's a yes and a no and a few other things. So if you're one of those rule followers and you want to put your hand up like this, you click on that little blue raise hand, and we'll know that you've raised your hand and you want to say something. And then you can just click it when you're finished, so we know you're finished. If you don't want to do that, it's totally fine, because there's few of us and we want this to be informal and a really good time to have a conversation together. So with that, I would invite, this is my order, I'm going to invite Betty to go first to tell us or share with us what her work in her communities is about, especially with the theme engaging with older adults during the holiday season. And what's going on with you, Betty?
Okay, before that, I see Jody has raised her hand. Jody, do you have a question? Did you want to say something?
I did that by accident. I'm sorry.
Okay, we didn't want you to
launch forward, Betty.
Okay, so I'm with Linkages, and ours, as we all are, every program that we have with Linkages in Calgary is intergenerational. Okay, and our goal and our focus is long-term relationships, which is really, really hard right now. But let me tell you some things that I've been doing, or we've been doing, because Crystal introduced herself, and we've been doing this together. Because of COVID, they haven't been able to meet in person, obviously. So right now in the schools, we have reached out to schools, and we are collecting, we're give them activities. We work with a teacher, okay? And we give them activities or cards or templates, and then the students complete those. And then either we, before they went online, we just collected them. But now that they're online, we have them email them to us, and then we print them off and we deliver them to the seniors. And what one school, if we can get specific names from the care centers, then when the students actually write a card, they can put the senior's name on there, and then they can sign their own name, and it makes it so much more personal. Okay, and Suzanne, you're from Bethany, and that's exciting because we work with Bethany, the main Bethany in Calgary, and also Bethany Harvest Hills. So let me give you an example. If you can see this, This is a template that we sent out, and then the students have to write a little note in there. And this is one that one of the high school kids sent to me, and then I printed it. So all the students that have done those, I print them out and then I deliver them to the person that I work with at the care center. I'm just going to take a second to read this one to you. This came from a junior high student yesterday. And it says, if I could tell Santa what to give you, it would be happiness and love, not just this Christmas, but for eternity, from Jackie. Isn't that sweet? That's a junior high student. Here's an example of an activity that we've done. It's just a fun thing. And there's questions like, what's your favorite food? What's your outdoor, what activity do you enjoy? Just things like that. So the student kind of fills that in. There's always, they put the senior's name and their name. And so if you do this for some of the older adults and you don't know who their names are, it doesn't matter. But if the youth puts their name in, it just personalizes it a little. Another thing we've done is when, along with these, I will print off some crossword puzzles or Christmas riddles or coloring pages and just include that. And the things that I'm talking about, I work mainly in the care centers. So those are the kinds of things that we've done. And then Crystal, my coworker, I've asked her later in the sharing time to discuss some of the things that she's doing in the community. Okay, that's me.
Well, can I ask one question on that, Betty?
Yeah.
I was wondering when you were saying that you printed them off, so is that you're printing off a blank copy and then the older adult and the child are physically writing with a pen on the paper, or are they completing it electronically online and then you're printing it off?
Before the lockdown, I printed them off, took them to the schools, and then the students just wrote in it. And then I collect them. And then also, if in some of the care centers, we have activity buddies. So then the seniors, they would have their own blank ones and they would send it back, kind of like pen pals, but like that. And yes, Jody, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing, especially if you're in the community and not working with a care center, but just in the community. But it works well in the care center if the staff has time to assist them. If you give them something like this or something like this, and they can do something for a youth, then it's not just them getting cards and feeling people are doing for them, because they want to do for others too. And, you know, like often we have teachers calling and saying, we want to do Christmas cards. Can you deliver them for us? And we'll say, sure. But a couple of care centers, they've said, you know, we're getting these, but our residents want to do something to reciprocate. And isn't that great? Because that's what ultimately we want to happen. And right now at Christmas time, they don't really have a chance to get to know each other, but they can maybe a little bit like that.
For sure. It would be great to get best advice from an older person to a younger person.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we've got a great activity planned for January. But Jody, the second part of your question, now that the junior and senior high school kids, sorry, I shouldn't call them kids. Now that they're at home, I just sent this to them electronically. I just emailed it. And then the students, I mean, they're way smarter than I am. So they're sending them back to me like this. And I emailed back, I said, how did you do that? So they explained how they did that, because I figured they would print them off, write in it, take a picture, send it back. But they told me, nope, there's an app for this. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have lots to learn from the young people about technology. Yep. That's amazing, Betty. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
I-
welcome.
I-
Do you mind if I ask a question as well?
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm trying to watch the hats and watch the little boxes, because when you start speaking, when there's a noise on your end, I can see it kind of light up. So sorry, you were just starting to light up there.
Sounds good. This sounds like a great program, Betty. Thanks for sharing. I'm wondering, has there been any evaluation done on the impact of this initiative and gathering of the feedback? Because I think the story and the testimonials can be so powerful, as well as to how the students are impacted, how the seniors are impacted.
Yep, we do that at the end of the school year. We've got lots and lots and lots of stories. Yeah, and we do evaluations pre and post.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anyone else want to ask Betty? And we'll have a chance after as well, but anything for Betty at this point in time? No? Okay. All right. Well, we've got lots of chance later on. Okay, Charlene, I'm going to go to you. Your turn next.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Julie. So as I said, I'm Charlene Fletcher and I work with the Chinook Regional Library System. And what I do there is I do programming in all the libraries in rural Alberta. That was, before COVID, when I could leave the library, my office. So the new challenge was how to reach out when I'm not able to be in all the communities. And before this lockdown, where people were still able to have some association with cohorts, I would send out activity packs for families to invite or to visit with a senior in their cohort. So basically they're probably their grandparent, and they would have an activity to do together. So the ones we worked on this October, November, December was a mapping activity. So there were 2 different activities that I supplied to the libraries, and then the librarians, who are amazing, deliver them to people in their communities for me. Also for December, I had one librarian request, and I do activity packs every month for the seniors also that go out for those who are isolated, and mostly to address people who maybe don't have access to digital devices like computers or iPads, so they're even more isolated. And so I put together these activity packs. Over December, I decided to do a 12 days of Christmas. So they're not supposed to open the packs till December 12th. And there are 12 days of activities that were supplied. And there were stories, heartwarming Christmas stories. There was a Christmas crossword, a Christmas game, a Christmas matching game, a new recipe to try, a coloring page, and yeah, there's just every day there's a new activity for them to try. So that's kind of what Chinook Arch has done to kind of keep connected with the seniors in our community, and we do that through the libraries. And so as the libraries are kind of a central point in all communities, it's a nice place where people know, they can gather stuff. And luckily we can still do curbside pickup with the lockdown. So those activity packs will still be able to reach the seniors and the families in our communities. So that's basically what we're trying to do to keep connected.
I should tell you, the rest of you, kind of an interesting tiny story. Charlene shared with us one of her activities. She to the committee members, she sent us this. It's Christmas carols that are, the words are, it's a scramble, and you're to guess what the Christmas carol really is. She didn't send us the answer page at the beginning, and we were all like, Charlene, these are too hard for us. We can't do it. Where's the answer page? So I have to, and she sent us the answer page. I have to tell you, I used that as at one of our staff meetings already, and they just loved it, and they could hardly do it either. It was just really fun to guess them and talk about the carols. So we also talked about the fact that some of the language was older language. I don't mean older person language, but from sort of days of yore, if you will, and that we might not understand it nearly as well as some of our seniors. So it was really an interesting conversation.
I'm so glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah, we had lots of fun with it. I've kept that, Charlene. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any questions for Charlene or comments before we move on? Okay, then we've got, and we certainly have time later as well. Thanks so much, Charlene. All right, well, I want to call on Myrna now from Cypress View Foundation, and Myrna's going to tell us a story about, and well, I'll let her tell the story. Myrna, let me just turn it over to you.
Hi there, I'm Myrna Cooper. I work at the Cypress View Foundation in Medicine Hat. And what we are is we have 5 buildings of seniors. We go from apartments into lodge and into SL3 areas. So we're quite diversified and have about 230 residents altogether. So we have a residents club, and quite often what we'll do is we have a couple schools close by, and at Halloween time, the kids usually come and parade through the building, through our hallways to present their costumes to us. Because of COVID this year, they couldn't do that. So our residents club decided that they were still going to treat them and had a fundraising event where they raised money from the staff and the residents and ended up doing goodie bags. They did 280 goodie bags for these 2 schools. I think they were kindergarten to grade 6, I believe. And so what we did was they got together, they packaged them. They had 2 people in a room so that there wasn't too many people handling it. We took everything downstairs so that it was isolated for, we were well in advance in September. They were isolated for 2 weeks. And then the school came and picked them up, and then the school also isolated them. Anyways, the kids got their goodie bags. Well, then I got phone calls from the schools saying, what can we give back? So they phoned and they said, okay, so we can't contact, we can't give hugs, we can't do this or that. So they suggested coming over and doing chalk art on our sidewalks outside. So they came over, one class one day, another class another day, told us what times they were coming. And all these little ones were outside doing chalk art, hearts, I love you, thank you, I liked this special. And you should have seen the people that were around these sidewalks, our residents, all in the windows, waving and crying. And some of the kids were going up and putting their hands on one side of the glass while the grandparents or older seniors put it on the other side. It was quite an emotional time for the staff and me, but it was a nice connection.
Oh, Myrna, I can't talk either. Very, very touching, very touching. Anyone have a question for Myrna right now while she gathers herself?
Myrna, I'm wondering, you've got a great opportunity with the schools close by. Do you do things all throughout the year with the students?
Yeah, they come over quite often and they have their choirs, they have their Easter events, their Christmas events. However, this year, all of that's ended. They did actually come over in the summertime and they sang for us. They stood in the parking lot and had their choir. And then we were able, and that was before singing wasn't allowed and some of the things, but yeah, we do quite often.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Myrna, were you able to have any photographs of that event?
I believe one of our gals that has the camera in here, I think she does have a few pictures of it.
Are they posted somewhere?
If they are, they would be on our Facebook. Like if you go into Cypress View Foundation, there's a Facebook icon. You can just click on that. You don't have to be a member of Facebook and you can see events. It would be probably the first week of November because Halloween and then November after that. So
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was beautiful.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Myrna. And Crystal, to your question, I just had a thought. We certainly have the capability on this course site as we build it together to share photographs. And of course, I know there's permissions and things like that. And many of you would have received those. So if you have photographs or things you would like to post stories and things like that, if you could send them to one of our team, we can start building this core site stronger together, if you will. And so that was a great question, and led us to realize that it isn't just our team that can contribute. We can all start contributing together and building this and learning from each other.
That's a good point. And I've asked Cindy from the United Way if she would share at the very end. She's going to talk to you about CORE and show you how to go on there and join our group if you haven't already done so.
Oh, that's great. Great. Okay, well, thank you. And I guess what, Chantel, it's your turn.
Great, thanks. I guess I don't have a lot of additional pieces or things that maybe haven't been talked about as much, but a couple of the ones that we've been doing here in Medicine Hat have been, I guess, a bit more focused around that connection. It's been really hard, I guess, to find some of these more long-term connections that Betty was speaking about. Sometimes those programs are a bit more difficult to adapt in this kind of a time because those happen so often in person. And, you know, when we have these weekly things that are going on in either a senior facility or out in community or in a location. And so when we change and adapt some of these things, sometimes we lose that more long-term connection. One of the ones that we've adapted that has kind of provided that has been the Penpal project, which we've done in the past, but have continued this year and have expanded a little bit with some of our additional partners through the Community Foundation, as well as through Redcliffe Youth Center and a few other places. So I think those ones are really nice because it's an ongoing conversation through the letter writing for the youth as well as the older adults. So that's wonderful. And I'm sure most of you have some sort of program that is similar to that. And then a couple of the additional ones that have come on, and I want to give a special thank you to the Lethbridge group because we reached out to Lethbridge at first when COVID started to kind of hear what they were doing for their residents and the Keep in Touch program. So again, it was an area where we felt like we wanted to reach out to our membership at first for the senior center. And we started by calling them, and then we found lots of them did want to be contacted regularly. So then we worked with Community Foundation and FCSS to be able to get a program up and running, which is going to continue in the new year and just shift over to our Canadian Mental Health Association. So it's been a real community partnership with that, and it's allowed for over 28, I think it was, of our seniors to have ongoing connections on a regular basis with volunteers. So it's been a great way to, again, establish a bit more of a connection throughout this time where it's difficult, especially if we are older or have any health risks or things like that, to be able to have somebody who's regularly checking in and connecting and ensuring that we have that social piece and we have things that are stimulating our minds still and all those kind of things. And then additionally to that, we've also, in the past few years, actually been working with different schools to do cards for our Meals on Wheels program, where a lot of our residents on that program are at home and often quite isolated and don't get out, which is why they're on the program. But this year, it's really expanded, and I know a bunch of different schools, I think most of our elementary schools, as well as a host of different ones, have been making cards to share at senior residents, through the Meals on Wheels program, at the hospital, I've heard, through the library, homebound programs. So they really have taken this on. And I think it speaks a lot to the connection that we all want to have with other generations and with people, and knowing that we're doing good and we're making a difference in someone's life and can do that little thing to kind of uplift them. And some of the cards that have come out have just, much like the stories that Myrna is sharing and that Betty has shared and Charlene, they just touch you. And the things these kids can write or the pictures they draw and the little things, they make all the difference. And I love even seeing them come through our office on their way out to the other people, because it gives us such a chuckle, like just precious things that they're writing and how enthusiastic they are about connecting with these people out there in the community. And I think it's just such a nice touch. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is we also did a You Matter campaign. So in the spring, we had a bunch of around 5,000 You Matter postcards printed. And so on one side, it says You Matter. And then on the back side, we invited school classes and volunteer organizations, as well as our own organization, to write postcards out to whomever in our community that they wanted to send them out. They were pre-postage paid. And we were able to get them out in our community so that it allowed people to know that there was others thinking about them and that they make a difference and they're part of our community and we miss seeing them. And it's been a thing that thankfully, because we had so many printed, it's continued even into the fall. And just last week, I had another 300 picked up that another organization is going to be using. And we're even going to look at doing them out into our county a bit.
So I think, again, just whatever we can do to feel like we're connecting to one another during this difficult time, it not only is helping, I believe, older adults in our community, but it's also helping those of us who are doing those pieces, writing the letters, making the cards, to feel like we're making a difference and we're still having those connections. So those are just a couple that I wanted to share about in our community.
Sounds fantastic. Are there some questions? I was getting some feedback there, so I thought maybe someone was trying to unmute. No? Yeah, Crystal. Oh, Crystal's clapping. Yeah, I love that one. Can you see it? Good job. I don't see any hands up though. All right, so let's open. Thank you, Chantel. Thank you all of you. That was really it's just so inspiring to hear what others do and how it touches you and the difference it makes in people's lives. It doesn't have to be big, grandiose, cost a lot of money, does it? It has to come more from the heart, sounds like. So let's open this up. And first of all, start with questions one more time. And sometimes they just come as the conversation flows too. But let me give you one last chance and just yell it out. Do you have any questions for any of the 4 people that spoke?
Yes, hi, I do. For those that have sent out activity kits, do you have a way of monitoring how they've been used, or are families challenging each other, or is the idea for them to do them together and just share them on social media, or what's the outcome of the activities? Kits.
That's a really good question. I do supply evaluation paper in there for them to send back. That has not been very successful. It requires the librarians to really, and they're so busy. I've had a few back and they've been positive. So that's one way. Sometimes the librarians will post pictures on Facebook of people who have used them and been successful with the activities. So that's one way. But other than that, I'm really one step away from how they're being used. That's one thing I'm sad about, is I can't see the end result of it. But I have seen on Facebook, we did a Remembrance Day package, and there was an activity to make a poppy keychain. And so there were a few posts on Facebook, which warmed my heart to see how they were being used. So that made me feel good. So I really rely on the librarians to get back to me on how things are being received. And most of the times I have a few librarians who are really good at letting me know that their patrons like them. And I know if it's good if they call back and say, can we have more kits? I had one librarian call from Rentham, and she wanted 13 more activity kits for Christmas. She said the seniors are loving them, which I don't know how they're loving them when they weren't supposed to open them till December 12th. But so that's one way. It's really hard for me, not, like you said, not being there to see how they're out, but I rely on the librarians' feedback quite a bit to know how they're being used. So
okay, thanks.
Helps. Yeah, sorry. Not great.
One more a little bit for Charlene, because the activities were going to be sort of the younger person, maybe with their grandparent. Were you able to, or was there any other opportunities around any kind of intergenerational connections with that? Like virtually, this is just curiosity.
Yeah, not really. It was really hard for me. I did do videos also that could be shared with youth and children and their parents, but again, I can't see who's watching or who's looked at it. So that's been that's the tough part of I think with COVID, is I can't always see the results, but we try to be creative in what we put out there and hope the librarians post on their Facebook page. I do watch all their Facebook pages, and so anytime they put anything about what I'm doing, I'm so excited to see that it's being promoted in their communities. And they've been really good at promoting activity packs. They do ours, and plus they do their own. So it's a big way they're staying connected with their communities. So, but I haven't had anyone really say, this is a great intergenerational activity pack.
Right. Yeah.
So, but Hopefully it's happening. Well, not now because we can't see each other anymore. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Betty, were you going to ask something? It looks like you lit up.
No, that was an accident.
Oh, no problem. I'm trying to look at the chat. I'm trying to look at the chat box, the participants, the hands, and the lighting up of the faces to make sure I don't miss anybody. So don't be afraid to yell out your comments. Okay, let's do this then. And if you have more questions as we roll along, no problem. Let's turn it into a sharing of experiences. So those of you who didn't have a chance to share, you have things that you might have been doing or you're aware of going on in your communities. Or you might have an idea of what would be really great, but you haven't experienced it yet and you'd like to try. Let's maybe go around and share a few of those kinds of things that we haven't heard yet. I don't want to pick on you, but I might be forced to, unless someone just picks right up and tells us an idea they might have or an experience they've had.
I could like to share one. It's Connie Marie from the Keep in Touch program.
Great.
One of the things that I found interesting soon after we got into the program was that many of our seniors, we had an intergenerational approach, and we were using a lot of university students that were in the humanities department, psych department. But I had a 94-year-old call me one day, and she said to me, how old are these volunteers? And I said, well, they vary in ages, which they do. There's just a huge range. And she said, well, I don't want to talk to anybody over 70, under 74, because if they're not 74, they don't know anything. That's what she said to me. So what's interesting is over time, any of the repairings that we've had have been because the seniors just don't have enough in common or aren't really getting maybe the value that they need out of the conversations. One of the things I think that contributes to that is most of our referrals come from social workers. So they come from home care or the senior citizens organizations. The majority come from the primary care network, the different physician groups. So many of our seniors do have significant issues. So I think that often they need a more mature volunteer to help to talk about some of those significant issues, especially losses. I think the majority as well. If there were two things that were most common, the first would be losses and the second would be cancer. So we've kind of moved now. I don't know if you'd call it intergenerational, but we've become very successful at recruiting seniors to work with other seniors. There are many seniors out there that are healthy and vibrant and can support, I guess, again, the level of the health issues and that we have with our participants. So it's been exciting to see, and we get retired nurses, healthcare professionals, specialists, which is awesome. Even though we're not a social work or a counseling program, I think it's just great to be able to have seniors helping seniors.
Oh, thank you, Connie Marie. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I have Jane next.
Yeah, one of the things that we were hoping to do from the Sundry Museum here is to, our theme is everyone has a story. So, and a lot of our seniors are on tablets and that now, or have somebody that will put them on, and we're thinking of picking topics that they could talk about. And so it can be from the child's point of view, and that goes back to the senior in a video. They can talk to each other and ask questions if they're hooked up together, so that there's that personal bit of it, right? So we're just working it out with the schools now, because we're not really close. Our senior center isn't very close to our schools. So how we can do it to, for now, it's just through video on FaceTime or whatever. But everyone has a story, and then we're going to put the stories in our Sundry Museum.
Oh, that's a great project. A little more difficult with COVID, but we haven't let it stop us completely, have we?
No.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Okay, I don't see any other hands. I might have to volunteer.
Just about the Penpal program pretty quick.
Okay, yes, love to.
Yeah, so it started off in Calgary in the summertime, and we are wanting to actually expand it a little bit into the rural communities where we know seniors face a lot of isolation. So we actually have a lot of youth who are keen to write to seniors. We have a surplus of youth in our program who actually aren't matched up with seniors right now. We're waiting for seniors to kind of join the program and onboard. So we want to open up the borders of the program to expand it to the rural communities so we can connect seniors in rural communities to youth in rural or youth here in Calgary as well. So just if you know any seniors who would like to join the Penpal program, we're open to accepting them. So send them our way.
Yeah, Crystal, that's interesting. I know that our Penpal program has, I wouldn't say they're having difficulty recruiting seniors, but I think it might be more, are enough seniors aware? They'd probably be interested, but how do you get the word out? Is that part of what you're experiencing?
I think so, yeah. I can't really speak too well on that part because I didn't run the Penpal program in the summertime. It was my coworker who no longer works at Linkages, but I think that was one of the main struggles, was getting the word out. And I think we delivered sort of recruitment posters to senior homes and then also to community centers in Calgary. Like, I don't know if you would be familiar with them. And I'm actually not that familiar with them myself. I know we just have them at different community centers. Bowness is one, Greater Forest Lawns 55 Plus Society is another community center. So that was the main way that we were able to communicate the program. But I think that was also a main struggle, was just getting the word out there. What did you guys do for that, for recruiting seniors?
Chantal, can I give that to you?
Sure. Yeah. We've done a few things. One, we've put some stuff out to our seniors through our senior center. Mm-hmm. So through our membership list, as well as our newsletter and on Facebook. We've also, and with the Facebook one, what we found is an interesting thing is that not necessarily are older adults always on Facebook, but they might have adult children who are. And so we also sometimes word it as far as if you have a parent who might be interested in this, and then kind of list some of the great benefits that they're going to get from it. And that's a nice way for another loved one to kind of encourage them to do that, because sometimes we are finding, and even with the Keep in Touch program and stuff like that, it takes a bit of encouragement, and they need somebody to almost personally invite them to be part of something. So through that, sometimes also through connections that we have in some of the senior facilities, because not everybody in those facilities might be appropriate necessarily, depending on cognitive level and stuff. But sometimes they have a couple of people that they know, used to be former teachers and would really love something like this, or are looking for that kind of connection. So we're finding that it's a little bit more of a personal invite and messaging that is more of that way, or using adult children and family members to encourage loved ones to join that program and connect.
Oh, those are awesome. Thank you.
I have one other little thought that occurred to me, because I'm on the condo board for the building that I live in, and we have a website that, you can post news, classifieds or whatever, but I think that's fairly common for condo complexes. So that was just something that rolled through my head, like just a news item, maybe connecting with property management companies might be an idea. And then in Edmonton, we have what are called community leagues that are kind of neighborhood hubs. I think in Calgary, they're called something different, same kind of concept, but called something different. That might be another strategy. I'm not sure about the rest of the province in terms of those kind of neighborhood hubs, but.
Yeah, the property management would actually be a pretty good place to start too.
Maybe. I mean, it's a thought that just now floated through my head, because Betty would be familiar with this, but like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, as well as Alberta Mentoring Partnership is also looking at how do we recruit more older adults to be mentors. So I think we can all put our collective heads together into how to reach these folks.
Definitely.
You know, that would be a good topic for another discussion forum. Not that we can't discuss it here, but just spend a whole like segment of time just talking about how do people in different communities recruit or look for isolated or older adults that really need help or need us to reach out to them. So some of you haven't spoken yet. I'm wondering if you live in, it doesn't have to be rural, but often rural is more of a challenge, but there's a lot of isolated older adults in cities too. What are you doing now in December? Just, it doesn't have to be a relationship, but what are you doing just to let them know that somebody cares about them? Nobody cares?
I could actually make a comment about the Keep in Touch program. So we're actually working now with the Rural Development Network to put the Keep in Touch program into rural communities. So that's part of our expansion process. So we've created a toolkit, and so that we can give an organization, a lot of FCSS departments, municipalities are picking it up, where they can add it to what they already offer and put it under their FCSS funding. So that's one of the ways. We're also looking at how we can continue to look for funding where we would find honorariums that we could give to small rural communities to work on the program, because it does generally require, you know, it's helpful to have even a part-time coordinator doing it, especially we notice a lot of the small towns, you know, you have, I think of Cardston as an example where you have one administration individual and I guess kind of a manager as well, doing everything there is for the town, as well as trying to run all the senior programs. So a lot of them seem to be tremendously understaffed. So we're hoping that we can do that, move it out to the rural communities. And because it's phone-based, it can really go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. We have 4 linkages chapters in rural Alberta. And one of them in Viking, we were having a chat and she said she really wants, what the challenge for her right now, and I'm assuming it's for most of us, is everybody's at home. It's not like they can go out and go to the community centers or, you know, meet like they usually do. And so she went to the school and she was in touch with a teacher, and she got, I don't know if it was a class or a group of kids, to make Christmas cards. And then she also went to the churches in the area and said, who are the seniors that come to your church, or, you know, any faith community? And so she's including these cards from the kids in the activity packages, and she got a lot of referrals for seniors so that she can do it that way. And then another chapter in Oyen, they're doing food hampers and including things in the food hampers. So I think anything that we do now, if we don't have a relationship with the seniors, it's okay, because anything we do in December, it's kind of a one-off, but it still really makes them feel good when they think somebody has thought about them and cared enough to reach out.
Yeah, thank you for that, Betty. And you're absolutely right. And you know, in most of the smaller rural communities, there is still a senior center, and very often there's still an elementary school.
Yep.
Not always, of course, but you know, so building those connections right now is more difficult, but yeah, it's certainly something that we can learn to build on.
I just wanted to note that in the chat, Lisa from Vegreville had put in what Vegreville FCSS was doing for Zoom audio sessions.
you want to
And
read it to
maybe
us,
also, oh, sorry, Betty, go ahead.
No, do you want to read it to us?
Oh, sure. So Vegreville FCSS is doing Zoom audio sessions modeled on Senior Centers Without Walls, and that's through the South Edmonton PCN. Short telephone educational sessions, as well as some sing-along, short stories, and even some exercises led on the phone by PCN exercise specialists. We're connecting lots of lonely seniors through this program. The only tech needed is a regular telephone because FCSS staff can phone in the seniors into each session they want to attend. Yeah, and it looks like Charlene with Chinook Libraries has also connected with Senior Centers Without Walls through the activity packs, and did receive an evaluation form back that they were very excited about that opportunity. And they're from a small community in Southern Alberta. Yeah, and just for anybody on the call that isn't aware, Senior Center Without Walls is available across Alberta. So it's based in Edmonton, but other communities can certainly connect in with it.
And the nice thing too is they put their program up on their website. So I was able to copy it out and send it out for those, again, who don't have a computer. So they were able, and it has all the instructions, how to dial in. So it was nice to hear that, you know, that someone and some people were finding that useful information. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I did, like, just this past week, check in with the staff person from Senior Center Without Walls, because I've mentioned it in a few different things that I've been in, and I'm like, you guys can handle more referrals, right? And she's like, yep, bring them on. So yeah, for sure, connect with that program.
And I wanted to add to when you were all talking about FCSS, and one thing that's helpful, been helpful for me is those community connections I can make with other organizations. And I know I've shared this with the group before, but I have one connection in Nanton. Elaine is her name, and she is awesome. We're always communicating and talking, and she's very positive about promoting whatever activity packs I have and getting them out to the communities. And she works with their library. And I mean, the goal of what I'm doing is to help libraries become more of an intergenerational, where they can have intergenerational programming when they're allowed to again. And so that's trying to connect those generations together, you know, in the library. That's a natural gathering place, or it will be hopefully again in the future. But those community connections have been really amazing to me, how there's so many people in the communities that really care about their citizens and do everything they can for them. So anyway, that's just something that's been really great for me. But
wow.
Yes, and I would maybe just add, like, Betty, to your question around what are people doing. I know that I just got a note within the last couple of days from my community league in Edmonton, you know, connecting volunteers to at a neighborhood level. So there's lots of people engaged out there to make sure we're looking out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw on Facebook at one of the oh, it's Caroline from Edmonton, sorry. Just on Facebook, she's probably a rec coordinator, and she had these signs made up, and seniors were holding them up and says, yeah, send me a card. I'd love to receive a card. And so that's out in the community so that people can maybe take some initiative to do that. So I thought that was a great idea. Can I just take a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit about what Age Friendly Edmonton is doing? We've created, it's not specifically for Christmas. It's just one of our intergenerational podcasts. We created a series of podcasts called The Shared Mic, and we launched the first season in January of this year. We have 8 podcasts that we launched from January to the end of February. And then season 2, we launched this past October on the day of International Day of Older Persons. And so we've been bringing together people from all ages and stages of life to have rich conversations, from topics on friendship, on academia. We had a father and son duo that talked about their music careers, and just really, really rich discussions. And all of these podcasts can be accessed on Blueberry. It's BLUBRRY.com. Or wherever you can access podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And as a result of that, we've created kind of a listening guide that will help older adults or anybody to learn how to access podcasts. Because before this, I had no idea. I had no idea what it takes to create podcasts and how technical it is. So we were able to bring in some volunteers that were very passionate to help us put together the podcast. So yeah. So anyways, just thought I would throw that out.
That's fabulous. And is that a link or something that we can put on our course site?
Yeah, I can. I'll find the Blueberry website, and that's probably the best place to go.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's already on Core. That's one of the first things I loaded up, Carolyn, because I think it's a great podcast too.
Okay, thanks, Jody.
Okay, Jody. Yeah, that's great. Thanks. I hadn't gone in and seen that yet, so super. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Carolyn, for the paper or the listening guide? Is that also available to be able to use?
Yes, I can. You know what? I think it's almost ready, and we can put it up on to the Core thing. Core, I don't know what it's called, Jody, help me. But yeah, and you can access it there. And what we're hoping to do with it, we've been kind of chatting about what the next steps are. We've got some champions from our leadership table that are willing to take this out to some of the senior centers, and it's kind of modeled after kind of a train the trainer. And if we can train other people to work with their seniors to learn and to access podcasts. So we're just trying to figure all that out. And but yeah, we can put it up onto Core so people can access it.
That'd be great. That's been on our radar as kind of some of the stuff that we want to help them be able to access, because there's so many things out there you can be learning about and hearing about and staying connected through. So I think a resource like that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the new way of listening to the radio, but you do it on your own time or whenever you can. So
really appreciate you sharing that with us, Caroline. That's great. Thank you. We've just learned so much from each other already today. I want, before we move from this conversation and hear a little bit about Core and what we plan to do with our work as we move along, there are a few of you who haven't said anything, and I won't pick on you because I don't think that's really fair. Some people are quietly listening, and that's their way, and that's fine. But I do want to ask one more time, are there any of you who are feeling a bit shy maybe, or joined just to listen, that you feel like, wow, I wouldn't mind saying something now? Please feel free to do that. We'd love to hear from you. I'll wait for a minute with the yucky, awkward silence. And if we don't hear from you, that's okay. We want you to keep joining us for these conversations, and when you're ready, we will hear from you.
Hi, it's Suzanne again from Bethany, Calgary. And I mainly joined to listen because I'm not part of the rec program here, the recreation therapy. And I do know that they have some things ongoing with linkages here in Calgary, and they do some activity kits and I believe some Penpal stuff. What I was sort of more interested in getting some ideas for would be more of our advanced dementia residents, people with some really, quite severe cognitive impairment. Verbal, but obviously not able to always focus on activities and those kinds of things. And so, they could have some family in town, but they're currently not able to see them. And so for them, because of the impairment, even if they have some family around who may give them phone calls, do some virtual visiting once in a while, they always feel like they're alone just because of the virtue of not being able to recall those connections and visits. So I'm kind of, trying to think of some ways that I can have some things to sort of, show them, give them, have them receive, that they could have with them. They love to carry things around, share them with other people. They don't have to be from family. So I'm wondering, sometimes with some of the programs, we're often wanting people to get something back. And so it's more of a reciprocal, like a pen pal type of situation, which is great. And I understand managing volunteers. Obviously, I have a lot of volunteers that do it because they want to get that feeling back. But I'd like to consider some of these people who, are in a situation where they aren't able to necessarily reciprocate and write something back or return a message, but that they need to benefit a great deal from it. And there are many who don't have family or don't have family in the country or in the continent, or just have their family just doesn't connect with them in any way at all. And so they are very, very isolated. And then my other challenge is multicultural and multilingual connections, because in those same residents, we have people who don't speak English, and particularly with the cognitive impairment, they begin to forget and go back to any native language that they had. And so, I could be assisting someone with a meal, for example, and if they speak Mandarin and that's all they speak and I don't, I can be helping them with their meal, but you're not able to really have that conversation. So I'm thinking now, just in our discussion, that I'm going to reach out to some cultural centers. I'm not sure why that didn't really occur to me before. And just see if there are some, people that would be willing to write some messages, create some art, or, something that can be meaningful to show someone, or record. I've been encouraging my volunteers, and actually I reached out to our families recently in a newsletter and just said, because they're not able to be together and be connecting over the holidays, record a little video message or a greeting, or just talk for a few minutes, and we can play it for them, and even play it like repetitively, because they may not remember they've seen it, or record a song, get a few of the family together and sing a Christmas carol or two, or those kinds of things. So maybe I'll see if these cultural centers would do that as well, and would say some things in this person's language, sing some, particular music, or play some music in their languages, or just have a few people talk so that they feel like they're more part of it. Because the majority of our staff, even though we're quite multicultural and diverse, the majority are still going to be English speaking people. So they just go large parts of their days without being able to carry on any real meaningful conversations. And so I just feel that isolates them to another degree, over the fact that they're kept to their rooms and they're not able to have physical visits right now. So that's just kind of what I'm looking for suggestions on.
Suzanne, that's great. And you're with Bethany here in Calgary. So
Yes.
why don't you reach out to Linkages, give us a call or send us an email next week.
Sure.
And either Crystal and I, we both work with, well, I personally work with Bethany Harvest Hills, which you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And I'm also working with Christina at Bethany. So give us a
Yes.
call and Crystal and I can help you.
For sure. Yeah. And like I say, the rec team I know has stuff going on. They're just also right now all on the floor helping the care staff out. It's kind of all hands on deck. So I'm crazy. Yeah, I'm just doing it for them. But yeah, that's great. I will email you.
Sure.
Yeah, Suzanne, I also just have a few ideas. You can touch base with me. I do run a Music to Link program, and that program is for seniors with dementia, based on the knowledge that seniors with dementia work really well with music that they're familiar with, as well as art. So I have a few ideas that I can hopefully help out with. My grandma, who also lived in a care center, she had Alzheimer's. She didn't speak any English, and music was really just a pathway to connect with her. So yeah, if you can touch base with me, and then we can talk about that a little bit more.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I also share one story about that? In our community, one other thing that they've done is there's a high school drama class that partnered with a dementia care unit to do a project called Imagination Alive, where they use pictures, and then they recorded the stories that the person with dementia shared that they thought the story or the picture was about. And then they ended up putting these stories with the pictures all together in a book.
And they sold them, they published it and they sold them locally, but they also gave them to some of the residents. And it was another way that they could look back at the pictures that they might be familiar with or not, but their name was in there as well, which is kind of neat. And it was something hard to like be able to carry around with them. And it was a nice way also to be able to share with families that there was something going on and there was some connections being made with younger people. And the drama class was really excited because they got to see the value of how you can use other art mediums to still have these stories told and to still have these interactions, even though it's hard to hold a conversation. And I know they're looking at actually trying to adapt it so they can do it again this year. And I think they were looking at trying to do it online because both the drama students now are doing homeschooling as well as the residents aren't able to see people. So I think they were trying to figure out ways to be able to do 2 drama students to a resident and maybe a staff person, so that they can help facilitate some of those conversations. But it might be another opportunity to look at, I'm not sure.
This has been a wonderful conversation. Also, Suzanne, if you will notice in the chat box, there are a number of links that several of our participants have in there that could be of help to you. And we'll copy this chat box at the end and find a way of posting these as well on the site. So that we can start building our resource section. So yeah, great conversation. Great conversation. Well, I don't see any hands. One more chance though, because just in case anyone else has input.
I just wanted to add one thing that I don't use it in my program, but because I research all the time, is there's a website called Time Slips, and they talk about creative care with dementia patients. And so it's another great resource that has great examples of different programs that are happening with the seniors with dementia. And also she has a book out that tells the story of how she came up with creative care. And just what you were talking about, Chantel, I think goes right along with what she's doing with seniors. Now, I don't get to use that in my program, but one day maybe, because it's pretty fascinating. Anyway, just 2 cents that there's a great website that has lots of ideas on it too. So
yeah, thank you, Charlene. Yeah, I find this conversation very exciting overall, because it just goes to show what can happen when you start talking about pardon me, experiences and ideas and things, questions that you have, and you start learning from each other already just in the hour we've shared together so far. So thank you very, very much, everybody. I'm not trying to cut you off. We did want to take a wee bit of time at the end for 2 additional things. One is to tell you a little bit about what our community of practice hopes to achieve and plans for in the coming year in 2021. And also for Cindy from United Way to tell you a little bit about how to join the site itself. So I don't know what order we want to do that in, Betty. Maybe we should give it back to you, Betty, to talk about our plans for the next year, and then we can end with how to join the site, because it will be fresh in everyone's minds.
Great. I was hoping you'd give it back to me, because I have a question for everybody. And everybody. So you all have to answer this question. If you don't want to verbally answer, you have to put it in the chat box. Do I sound like a teacher or a mom? I used to be a teacher, so I'm really good at getting people to do what I say. Anyway, here's the question. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. And I am so pleased, like Julie said, what a great conversation. And I think they're only going to get better. So the question is, what value are you taking away from spending an hour plus in this forum today? So either a word or a sentence. So I hope everybody will just speak up. And if you don't want to speak up, put it in the chat box, because we really want to hear what value you found today. Do you want me to call your name?
We can read some of them from the chat, Betty. There's really great stuff here.
Okay, and I'm not looking at it. So do you want to read those?
Sure. I'll read them so far. I enjoyed the discussion on seniors helping seniors, new resources and ideas, inspiration, collaboration, caring, another new ideas, connections, many great ideas and some hope for the next few months, awareness and inspiration, co-creating, recruitment of seniors and youth is essential. Wow, exciting stuff.
Okay. Did we miss anybody? Last chance. Okay, well, let me tell you my word, encouraging. This was so encouraging and affirming because this group, can you imagine? Can you believe that we started during COVID? And look at all of you that have joined today. And we've got lots of things that we just hope this will keep getting better and better. Let me tell you what we've got planned for the new year. We've got a 3-part webinar series. So I want you to save the date, and you'll be getting these dates in an email after this discussion. Tuesdays from 1 to 3:30, no, not 1 to 3, from 1:30 to 3. There's going to be 3 of them, January 26th, February 9, and February 23rd. And it's a 3-part series, and we're going to coach you through deciding on the type of intergenerational program best suited to your community. We're going to help you create an action plan and determine next steps to implement these programs and evaluate the success of your program. So when I personally talk about intergenerational programs, I'm talking about youth and seniors developing relationships, not just one-offs. Those are great, but developing relationships more long-term. I don't mean years, but at least months, like for a whole school year or something. So, and a lot of people, you don't know where to start. So join our webinar series. We're going to walk you through the whole thing, and we're going to coach you through it. Okay. So now we've talked a lot about core, and Miriam, I noticed you jumped on, but I think it's Cindy or Miriam. You can fight over which one of you is going to share just a little bit about core. They're just going, for those of you who are not familiar, they're just going to tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining the conversation today. If you're interested in continuing these conversations, please join us on the CORE platform, where you can find many resources, events, and programs all around Alberta. And the platform looks like this, as I've shown it on the screen, and you can sign up for a free membership. I've left it in the chat, but I can paste it again here. Yeah, and if you go under groups, sorry, right here, I hope you can see my mouse up there, groups. You can find the Intergenerational Linkages Community of Practice group, and you can just click on the button here that says join, and it's as easy as that. And we hope to see you on CORE. And if you have any questions, here's our email down here. So please, let's continue these connections and share more resources. I think today's conversation shows that there's an appetite for that. So here's a platform if you're interested in joining. Thank you, Betty, for letting me shine the light on CORE for the end.
Awesome. Thanks, Cindy. And so if you have any questions about CORE, that's the email address. If you have any questions for our group, you can respond to the email that you got. Well, I don't know if you have, I think if you email me at Linkages, I think you got that email in. You can tell I'm thinking out loud here. I didn't plan this part. How are you going to get my email? Email any one of us, and I think that came in your invitation, okay? Or just look for Linkages and email us. We'll get it. And any of the activities that we shared or that we talked about, like these things that I talked about, I'm willing to share them. Like if you want my templates, let me know. Why reinvent the wheel? We have, Crystal and I put our heads together when COVID started, and we've got tons of activities. So if you want any of them, if you want us to share it, just let us know. Any last questions before we wrap this up? Any last comments? No?
No, it was a great session, Betty. Thank you for organizing this.
Well, our pleasure. And I want to say thank you again for everybody who came. I wish you happy holidays, happy New Year, and I hope you have an awesome time reaching out to the older adults in your community. And you know what? Go onto CORE and join the group, and let's start a discussion thread and just share your ideas, share your stories about what you're doing or what you've done and what made you cry. Because I noticed when Myrna shared her story, I mean, our stories are so touching, and isn't it nice if we can share them? Okay, so that's the end of our time, unless somebody has any last, if anybody else wants a last word. Okay, big shout out to our group for the good job, and big shout out to all of the participants. Thank you. Happy Friday.